Welcome back. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Tuesday, March 31st. It is 7 a.m. on the button on the East Coast. The Department of Labor announcing a new proposed regulation for 401k plans to increase potential retirement investment options for Americans. The deal following an executive order that President Trump signed back in August, which directed regulators to expand access of 401ks, allowing retirement plans to include alternatives such as crypto and real estate investments. The regulation expected to impact more than 90 million Americans. Joining me now is the Labor Secretary herself, Lori Chavez-DeRemer. Secretary, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Tell us about this big announcement.
Well, it is a big announcement, and I think it is going to do exactly as you mentioned, possibly change the lives of up to 90 million Americans, where they have the opportunity in their own investments to work with their fiduciaries, their investors, to determine what they want. And I think that that's the accessibility the president has directed really through his Labor Department and his executive order. It's really going to allow Americans who didn't have the opportunity to invest in their retirements that was once reserved for really the ultra wealthy, and now every hardworking American will have that opportunity as we, move into this rulemaking of this expansion.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. The issue that critics raise is that some people won't understand what some of these things are. They won't understand the risk. Is there an education component of this so that people understand what they're getting into, if in fact they do choose to include it in their 401k?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we talk about alternative assets, people will question what does that mean for them. And, when you're talking about crypto or any sort of Bitcoin or, even real estate or private equity, all of those are alternative assets. And, we're hoping that the fiduciaries, the financial investors that they work with, will have that opportunity to educate everyday Americans about what's available and what's out there. But when you think about the innovation and the expansion of any sort of retirement package, what the Department of Labor doesn't want to do is really put their thumb on the scale. They want to get out of the way and let these investors and, protect their retirements and mitigate any risk through their fiduciaries.
Yeah. I know you've got a new Wall Street Journal op-ed on this. You said the Labor Department is aiming to free retirement plans from regulatory overreach and litigation abuse. Mike, you think this is a great idea?
Yeah, look, this is an unbelievable idea. This is the main tool that I think most Americans use to create a liquid net worth and a cash flow in retirement. And I think the Department of Labor is saying, hey, there's other vehicles for investors to make money for people that have longer time horizons, because typically in your 401k, it's not money that you need next week or next year even, and you're continually adding to it. So like a Bitcoin where you could dollar cost average into it. Is the Department of Labor going to come up with some additional clarification or maybe go on and, add some investor education to their platform so people can become more aware of this, making it easier for the fiduciaries? Or is there any plans along those lines so that more people can understand this and potentially get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Through the proposed rulemaking, as the comment period's open for the next 60 days, that's going to be important to understand, what the rulemaking is going to. We're going to want all the incoming input. But from the Department of Labor's perspective, one of the things that we have been focusing on is educating the public, making sure that through the innovation and the executive orders by this president, that the Trump Labor Department is to give access to hardworking Americans so they understand. It's that transparency that we want to make sure that they, have the focus that they need to invest with their financial institutions, their investors, their fiduciaries, to give them the transparency report about what's available, how to mitigate the risk, and how to best protect the retirements. Because that's the job of the Labor Department. We want to make sure that we're protecting retirements for hardworking Americans, but at the same time, give them the flexibility to grow their retirements for long-term investments, and so they have lifelong income. That's the goal of this president, is lifelong income for the hard work that they have put in every single day of their lives.
Well, I'll tell you, the president is not missing anything with all of his agenda. I want to talk about the president's vision for a new golden age in America, beginning with this new retirement system and beyond. The Wall Street Journal is also writing about private credit this morning with the new rule, which may allow it into 401k. Secretary, do you worry about this upset in the market right now, and whether or not that's going to have a negative reception because of what's going on in the market and the worries around private credit?
Well, again, private credit whether it's retirement, for private credit, whether it's real estate, whether it's Bitcoin, there's always going to be ups and downs. But again, I think that's the focus of the Labor Department. We're not going to pick winners and losers.
Right.
What we want to do is have the flexibility and, the openness to have the options of what Americans want. And it will be up to those fiduciaries to, have the prudency rule.
Yeah.
It is their responsibility to determine risk mitigation for these investments, and that's what we want to focus on. And that was so important about, as this rulemaking comes forward, when we take this input, is what it's going to be best for the retirement of Americans. And you're not going to have that innovation unless we have rules like this for the flexibility. So again, under the ERISA law, through our EBSA, we will take all the incoming to have the best rule possible so that these fiduciaries know their responsibility, that they talk to their investors, and they have the best outcomes.
All right, let's talk about jobs, of course, because we've got a big week of data coming out this week, and there's also worries about AI replacing jobs, and we'll talk about your initiative coming up. But, Secretary, what do you want to say about the current state of affairs, given the fact that oil prices are up 50% since this Iran conflict began? Jobs were down in the month of February, and we are, of course, expecting job growth when we get all of this data out this week, the JOLTS, the ADP, and the report from your department on Friday. How would you assess the jobs picture today?
Well, I'm looking forward to Friday's numbers to see exactly what the trends are. Any snapshot in time, any economic indicators that we have through the Department of Labor when we're collecting these data points, we did see last month where the jobs numbers dropped. We know we can attribute a lot of that to whether it's a strike, whether it's the weather. But again, it's a snapshot in time. And we have focused so diligently on making sure that we grow this workforce, whether it's through AI, or any other sort of manufacturing, construction, the skilled trades. Closing that skilled trades gap is what has been important for the markets. And we're talking to private sectors. We want to know what they need, when they need it, and how quickly they need it. So I'm looking forward to these numbers. Again, with the oil prices in this, what's happening in the Middle East, I know the president has been very focused with his policy team there, foreign policy. We want to make sure that we're doing best for Americans, keeping prices low, because we have seen over time since the Biden administration, gas prices have gone down, housing prices were on track to go down, but we have a little stop in that. But we're going to keep focused on the employment market, because we want to make sure that people are keeping more of their hard-earned dollars. We've seen Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent talk about what's coming with the IRS with tax refunds. We're starting to see those dollars go back to the American people where they're getting an income back. But we have to expand the job market, and we're doing everything we can by deploying hundreds of millions of dollars to have that trained workforce through the Department of Labor. So with AI, as you've seen, we have our Make America AI Ready initiative has gone out this last week. We want to make sure that people know that they can be proficient and literate in AI, and the jobs of America, we want to go to native-born Americans, and we are focused on doing exactly that. So we have a lot on our plate, and we have a lot more to do, and we're going to be out talking to the American people, again, how to close that skills gap and create more jobs in the American economy.
I like it. Secretary, real quick before you go, where are the jobs right now, would you say? Where are the most opportunities?
Well, we're seeing a lot of jobs, obviously, in healthcare. We've seen them in construction with all of the investments that the president has been making with, $18 trillion in commitments. We'll start to see those transfer over into the manufacturing jobs. We're seeing them in, a lot of the cybersecurity, in the security jobs. So it's been good, but we didn't have to keep our, foot on the gas pedal to make sure that we're creating those jobs for all Americans. All
right, Secretary, good to see you. We'll be covering all the jobs data and certainly watching your AI program as it comes out. Thank you so much, Lori Chavez-DeRemer. We'll see you soon, Secretary. We're just getting started this hour. Quick break, and then we got a rally underway. Dow Industrials right now up 361 on this final trading day of March and the final trading day of the first quarter. Oil prices are up once again as the president is threatening more energy and infrastructure strikes on Iran if Tehran does not open up that Strait of Hormuz quickly. The chief economist of ExxonMobil is here. Former White House Council of Economic Advisors, Tyler Goodspeed, will join me and weigh in. You're watching Mornings with Maria live on Fox Business. Stay with us.